What's up everybody, I'm Matt Brody and this is Simply Must Go. If you watched my last video, you got to see Project Emo, which is my new 1993 Jeep YJ. And if you followed my channel for any length of time, you would know that I also have a 1992 Jeep YJ that I converted into a Jurassic Park Jeep. But this, you might be asking, why does he need another YJ? Why does he need a third Jeep? Because I also have a JKU that's my overland rig. Well, Project Emo is going to do two things. One, it's going to give me another Jeep to just sort of play around with and learn on, because I didn't have to do a lot to sue my 92 Jeep YJ Jurassic Park replica. So I'm going to have a lot of things to do with this that I get to learn on, but also I want to take this on not just like forestry trails and stuff, but I want to take this to like our local off-road park, Gulches, and kind of see what it's really capable of doing. So it's already got about a 4-inch lift on it, and it's got some other things, and I want to walk you around this Jeep, show you what I like about it, what I don't like about it, kind of update you on some of the plans, things I need to fix, all the stuff. So without further ado, let's get up close and personal with Project Emo. Real quick, because I know you're going to ask, this is the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, not the 6-cylinder. So overall, I think the Jeep is in really good condition. There's not a lot of rust. There's a couple of little places it's got some surface rust on it, but I can clean that up pretty easily and paint that. The big concerns that I have are there's some knocking in the engine bay, which I believe is just a leak in the exhaust manifold. And I'll have to do some digging and kind of find out exactly where that leak is. But I've talked to a couple of people. We're pretty sure it's a leak and not anything that's actually messed up with the engine. The transmission, on the other hand, is fine with the exception of third gear. Third gear grinds a good bit, so I'm going to have to take it to a transmission shop at some point and get that looked at so that I get third gear back. For now, I'm just skipping it as I drive, so I go first, second, fourth. Not ideal, but they have so little power that by the time you're at the higher end of 2, 4 is just fine. So anyway, it hasn't been a big deal. I've been able to drive it that way, but those are the only two mechanical issues that I know of. The other things are fairly small and minor, and a lot of them I'm hoping to tackle today. The one thing I can tell is that the previous owners did care about this Jeep. It's got bed lining on the floors, so they've gone through and done all of that. I don't know how I feel about the bed liner yet. In some ways I like it. In some ways, I wish it wasn't bed lined. But it is what it is, and it's probably for the best. So one thing you're going to notice is this terrible radio. It glows blue and stuff, and I hate that anyway, and you know that from other videos. But the volume knob is also broken, which means I can't control the volume, and it's set really loud, and I can't figure out how to program any radio stations. So this radio is currently worthless. That's a project for another day. And speaking of radios, the back has this thing. That's gotta go. I haven't seen the actual interior seats yet, but these covers, they're gonna go. I actually got these same covers initially when I got Sue, the other Jeep, and I got rid of them when we did the conversion. They're okay, not a big fan of them. They get all wrinkly and stuff, and then they fade really bad. And so eventually, new seats. All right, so there's a couple things from a safety and driving standpoint that I need to address fairly quickly. The first is this seatbelt, which doesn't actually work. It's just sort of stuck in the all the way out position. It doesn't retract. I've got new seatbelts, so that's going to be something that we're doing today, is installing new seatbelts. These mirrors have to go. Not because I don't like them, but because the position makes it impossible to actually see out of. And when I say you can't see out of these side mirrors, I mean you can't even see the side mirrors. This is my view from the driver's seat of that mirror. So we've got to fix that issue. So an aesthetic thing that I'm definitely going to address is this front bumper. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's just not really the style that I want. I want something sort of low profile and stubby. So we're going to get rid of this bumper. We're going to get rid of these lights. We'll put something else in. We're probably going to put some awesome Tyree lights up here because, man, those things are bright and they're amazing and they're strong and they're powerful and they don't break. Way better. So we're going to do that. We're also going to replace these side steps. They're not great. They're on with like 2 bolts. They feel fairly flimsy, especially with my weight on it. So I step on it and I feel like it's going to crack or something. Don't love it. The other thing is these wheels and tires, and to be honest, I'm on the fence about them. I think they're fine for now. I don't really know much about these particular tires, but they're fairly new. They look good. The wheels I don't really love. I don't hate them, but I don't love them. One of them is missing the center cap, and the rear tire is actually a completely different offset. So it's like, it just doesn't match, and it's weird, and it's the wrong tire up there too, so I think at some point we'll address this. So one thing that tends to plague a lot of older YJs is a completely dry rotted cowl, seal, gasket, whatever you want to call this. I had to replace this in Sioux. This one doesn't look as bad because in Sioux there was some rust that was here too, and it caused some other damage. So I had to get all that stuff fixed. But this, I think we're just going to replace the gasket and be okay. That's the overall view, and there's not a ton that I think that needs to happen. Now, obviously the transmission is probably going to be the biggest aspect of getting us really ready. But assuming that that goes as planned, there's not a lot left over to do. It's all smaller things that I think I can pretty much do myself. I am going to take it to a shop that I trust, that works on a lot of Jeeps, and just have them go over it with a fine-tooth comb, just inspecting it. I'm not gonna do brakes and stuff like that myself. I just don't have the experience and the tools, and with something as necessary and as safety related as brakes, I don't wanna mess that up. So I'll take it to another shop to get all that kind of stuff looked at. But in terms of the seat belts, the dash lights, figuring out the stereo, doing some different sensors and stuff, cleaning up the engine a little bit, I'm going to try to take care of all that, and I'm hoping to get a lot of that done today, unless we run into any issues. Before I start digging into Project Emo and taking everything apart, now is the perfect time to punch the like button in the face if you haven't already. And if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. You can follow along with all the adventures with Sioux, with Project Emo, with the Southlander, which is my overland rig. You can watch all our adventures and stuff. I would love to have you as a part of this channel. All right, enough of that. Let's start tearing this thing apart. So here's a quick little tip for you. I see a lot of people removing these two bolts when they want to take the windshield and fold it down. But if you actually remove this bolt, then the whole thing will fold down and you only have to remove one bolt instead of two. Yeah, so this is something I feel like I'm gonna see a lot, where I had a normal star bit, hex bolt, whatever you wanna call that, here, and then a Phillips head here. And it's like that all over the place. So I love that the previous owners did stuff to help maintain it and take care of it and replace things, but they didn't replace things with the same things, which means you're constantly back and forth with different tools, and it's sort of a pain. Luckily, I have new ones that we'll put in that won't have that issue anymore. Man, not to be a complete baby, but I'm using hand tools to unscrew the Phillips head screws because I'm just really worried about them being stuck and then getting stripped out and stuff like that. So I figured I'd be really safe and be very gentle right now while I try to figure out what's stuck and what's not. But man, that's a forearm workout. Oh. I am so happy. I was half terrified that when I put the windshield down, I was going to find a bunch of rust on top of the dash frame mount, which is what I found when I did Sioux's, and I had to replace the whole dash frame because it was just so rusted out that I just needed to do that. This has absolutely no rust on it. It is perfect. I'm so glad. I also found this stupid little thing that had been rolling around there. So every time I made a turn, it like rolled behind there and made all this noise. So got that too, bonus. And I think before I do anything else, I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum all this stuff up, clean this out a little bit so I don't have to be working around leaves and dirt and stuff. It'll just be cleaner. And then when I wanna put it back, it'll be clean. But I'm so excited. That's so much better than I thought it was gonna be. In order to take the cowl gasket off, there are about 8 screws, they're Phillips heads, kind of lining the entire interior. And so we're just gonna undo those and it should pop right out. So this is one of those times that I wish I was at Beef's shop where I had access to every tool possible, but this is my smallest Phillips head screwdriver and it's too long to fit there. So I need something that's like this long. So I have to go to the store and buy a stupid small screwdriver. How many trips have you made for tools because you're in the middle of something and realized you don't have the right one? let me know. Happens a lot. All right, small screwdriver acquired. All right, yeah, look how dry rotted this thing is. You can just see it's really bad. You can just see it just cracking and crumbling. So definitely something need to be replaced. This is now trash. Let's put the new one in. Boom. I'm a pretty big fan of cleaning as you go. So as I take things off, I want to clean around it, clean underneath it, clean behind it, whatever, so that when I put it back, it's as clean as possible. And it just minimizes, you know, the wear and tear on the vehicle, the potential places that rust are gonna settle in, things like that. This old Cowl, like parts of it are just still stuck to the frame. So I'm gonna use a plastic razor to try to scrape some of that off. Don't use a real razor. I don't know that this is gonna do a whole lot, but we're gonna see. Just try to clean it up a little bit more than it is. There are now a couple of spots where there's some bare metal showing. And even though it's going to be covered up by the Cowl gasket, I'm going to go ahead and put some paint down here along this little lip in a couple of spots before I put the gasket on, just to help prevent any rust from forming in those spots. You'll never see it, so I'm not really worried about it looking pretty, but it'll protect the Jeep. The lights in the dash don't work at all, so at night you don't see anything. Headlights work, all that kind of stuff. Turn signals, all that works, but the actual dash where the gauges are, none of those light up. And I'm pretty sure it's because this switch right here is bad. In order to switch that out, I've got to take this apart. So I was going to do the seatbelt next so that I could at least put it back together and drive it during the day safely. But I think if I'm going to do all this, I might as well just do all of it. YJ life. I'm not sure I would call this a pro tip or not, but get yourself one of these magnetic pans that holds screws and stuff that you can just stick. There's so much just raw metal, particularly on a YJ. You can basically stick one of these pans just about anywhere, and then you got a place to put all your screws and keep them organized so you're not screwing yourself up, missing something. And do one project at a time so you don't have a whole bunch of screws, you don't know which ones go where. That's what I do because I'm an idiot and I'll mess it up otherwise. So anyway, these, go get yourself one. So you may be wondering why I'm taking the glove box out as well, since I don't really need to. Well, because I figure if I'm going to take everything off, I might as well take everything off and clean it really well and all that. But in order to get the glove box out, there's these 4 screws that are sort of tucked up underneath the dash, which means I'm probably going to have to take out the radio too, just to have access. It's a little easier since I'm taking out the radio anyway. I figured that's probably a good time, but there's not a lot of room on the passenger side of the garage here. So it's gonna be like breaking my back, try to get in here and get these stupid screws out. Getting that glove box out was one of the more challenging things I've had to do, and I don't know why they made it that way. It's so hard to get up behind here. Even with the radio out, it was a challenge. I ended up having to use something like this to get it out, and like being in the weirdest position and like using 2 fingers to try to find it and hold it in. It was just a nightmare. Anyway, super sore now because of the way I had to do it, but it's out, which is good. It's pretty gross back there. I'm guessing it's almost 30 years worth of grime and dirt and dust and stuff, and clean these gauges up a little bit, make them look real nice, and then we'll put it all back together. Maybe. Ugh, look how dirty that is. Like, that's all supposed to be clear. Like, oh, I'm so glad I'm taking this all apart so that I can clean it. I'm not super OCD or anything. Like, I don't care that things aren't perfect or anything like that, but that's just filthy, and I'm really glad that I get the chance to clean all this up. So you may have actually noticed this before I did, but I'm missing 2 light bulbs. So I got 2, I'm missing 2. I don't know exactly why or what that means, but I'm gonna pull these and see. It doesn't look blown. That's got a blue cover on it. Okay, so that's got a blue shield. I can't tell if it's beat up or not. So I don't know how important that's going to be. That's the 4-wheel drive light over there. And I don't know what... I may just order some more of the housings, I guess. I'm not really sure what they're called. Alright guys, I am starting to run out of daylight here, and it's not super bright in the garage, and getting under here it's dark and stuff. Kind of tired. Anyway, I'm pretty proud of myself for all the stuff. We got the whole dash taken apart. We dealt with the cowl thing. All those dash parts are now clean. All the dash in here is clean. I still got a lot to do. I still got to deal with this stupid speaker system here. I'll pull that out in the morning. Probably going to take off the bumper and stuff too, just to start working on some of that stuff. Anyway, I think we're going to leave it here. We'll pick it up in the next video. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to keep up with this build and all the things that we're doing and all the things that have to go on to get it fixed and put back together, follow along, hit the subscribe button. I'd love to have you. If you've got any comments, if you've done any of this stuff, if you've got ideas, things I need to make sure I check for, I've already found a few other things now that I've pulled the dash apart that I need to go do some research on and figure out if I need to fix or replace or whatever. We'll go over that in the next video too. But any advice you guys have as I'm tearing this thing apart, things to look at, things to make sure if I've got this apart, what else do I need to be doing in there? Anyway, leave those comments down below. God bless, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Join me next time as things get worse before they get better. I now understand why you say that other people's cords management gives you anxiety. Also, don't zip tie things in a fixed position to things that are supposed to move. You make it so that those things don't move, and then when you think they're not working because something's broken, it's just because you've zip tied it to a fixed position.